Hi everyone, today with me I have Ethan. Ethan is a CTO at the Vont, and today we'll be going through how you can get started with Hacktoberfest with Vont and the Keploy. So hi Ethan.
Hi, nice to see you again.
So today we'll be basically have a bit of surprises at the end since the Hacktoberfest is going digital completely this year. So stay tuned for those, and let's get started, shall we, Ethan?
Yes, sounds great.
Cool then. Let me bring up your slide. So meanwhile, I want to ask.
Mhm.
Could you share us something about Vaunt and how it's helping into empowering the developers since this is a month for the developers to get started with their journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we set out to build Vont a handful of months ago. We recently launched. We're about 8 months into the organization at this point, and our main focus area is how we can build developer recognition programs uh, for organizations in the open source world, but also for developers themselves to showcase their contributions. So we'll walk through a number of things that we're doing and what we're focusing on how Vaunt is enabling that. But one of the biggest ways to engage, especially with the spirit of Hacktoberfest, is with our custom achievements platform. So we've really leaned in to build a robust achievement system that really serves two specific markets. One is the developer, earning cool digital badges and achievements for the contributions that they're pushing out. And the other is for the organization or repository owner. And what we think is really unique about what we're doing with Vaunt is we've created this custom manifest that developers can add to their repositories that more or less codifies their contributor MD file. So we see these achievements as a really great way to let contributors know how they want to engage with your repository, what your goals for your repository are, and how they can help move the needle for you.
That makes sense. Could you please, I'm very much interested into the achievements and section, how we can have a badge,
Yes.
and what stuff that is going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a little bit of a deck here, but we can jump around this as much as we want, and hopefully I can jump into slide share mode. That way, it might be a little easier to read. So Vaunt offers a number of achievements. What we're looking at here are more or less the standard achievements that we push out for a lot of repositories. These are free achievements that anyone can get started with. Anybody can add these to the repositories and start taking advantage of these. And we really made these to align with just a handful of really approachable KPIs that we thought developers would push out. So on the left here, you have an example of the achievement manifest that gets added to your repository. We have 4 or 5 listed here. The first one being shooting star. We all know that on GitHub, stars matter. Whether or not we like that stat as a leading indicator of success or not, they do matter. Developing an achievement that just says, "Hey, we appreciate you starring the repository," is something that we really thought was a good way to say, not just get a star and go about your day, but get a star and show that you're supporting the community also by being awarded an achievement. Second, we have an achievement for every bit counts. This is, something that we hear a lot in the space, which is, oh, I don't know if my contribution's big enough. I don't know if, I've done enough to actually move the needle for the company. And we wanted to make it really clear that, even one commit to a code repository has an impact. And we really wanted to encourage people to say, no, come do any type of contribution to our repository. So that was another standard achievement we did. The next one was pull request hero. I love getting pull requests. I think anybody that submits a PR into my repository, I want to say thank you. So we developed an achievement for everyone to use those, as well as an achievement for closing issues. So these are cool. These are just our standard achievements, like I mentioned. But what we've really developed is, again, that custom achievement capability within GitHub itself. So here's another repository that we have. This is actually a little personal repository of mine called Boa. And I decided that it wasn't enough just to have an achievement for starring. I wanted an achievement that chained a couple of those triggers together. So I have whether or not the user comes in and stars a repository, they also need to open an issue of an enhancement or review a PR for me. And that's how this achievement gets unlocked. And that's what I found as the repository owner really moved the needle for me. Of course, these can be anything you want. We have a lot of different configurations that Vaunt does and controls, and there's a lot of power behind the custom achievements framework.
That makes sense, especially the commits part, because each time the contributor comes in, they think like whatever contribution they are doing, whether it's creating an actual value or not, and as well as repository owners or the org owners, they can find okay, these are the folks who have actually contributed and are supporting us by the following commits and the contributions.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Other, yeah, so like I wanted to ask, like other than the achievements part, how can actually orgs flaunt their contributors and
Yeah,
kind of celebrate their achievements? Okay, these are the contributors, and they have done outstanding work by contributing in any form of contributions or comments.
yeah, absolutely. So outside of just the achievement system that we have, and again, there's some pretty unique things here that we're pushing out. But outside of just the achievements, we do offer a number of cards that we allow developers to go showcase on their profiles. So this is an example of a user who has both our community board. You can see that up at this top section here. Our developer card, which is more of a leveling system that shows your overall contributions and really showcases how you're contributing across the GitHub universe, as well as the achievements that they've earned. The really cool thing with the community boards, and I'll see if I can switch tabs here. Yep, that worked. Awesome. Is with these community boards, this is another way that organizations or repository owners can celebrate their contributors. So, you've probably seen a dozen different stats sites that go into stats repositories. We're not trying to be another stats site for GitHub repositories. What we're really trying to develop, and we're really interested in hearing feedback, but we're really trying to go above just star count on GitHub to show the health of a community for repository owners. So we are interested in doing things like who are the how many unique contributors does this repository have? Meaning, what's the diversity of this community? Are we reliant on one independent individual that's hosting the entire repo to continue the success of it? Or do we have a healthy distribution of contributors that are making up the project? And that's we're refining those KPIs. We're working with a lot of folks like yourself to understand what really drives the metrics between the repositories that we're interested in. But where I was going with a lot of this is a way that repository owners can really showcase all of the contributors of the repository easily, show how they've been contributing. And we even have a section that highlights who the code owners of the repository should be to be able to interact further with those individuals if you're going into um, actually contribute to the project. So of course, we have a number of things. We have insights tabs where again, we are providing currently some analytics data on the repository. These will likely evolve over time as we develop those KPIs further. And then we also have our achievement section, as I mentioned, that just showcases all of the users that have earned the achievements, just gets it right up in front and make sure everyone understands, who the top contributors are for the projects.
I think that's one of the best ways that organizations or repository owners can showcase and support their contributors, especially the developers and even
Absolutely.
the folks who are, you know, n- so when I say developers, there comes codes and no code developers both.
Right.
So yeah, this can
Right.
help celebrate and empower both of them.
Yeah. And that's, something that we hear quite a bit with our achievement system is, well, what about users who make non-code contributions? And what's really cool about the achievements system that we built is, again, we're really thinking of it more as guidelines for contributors, even non-code contributors. So what you can do in your achievements manifest is you can even tag what file extensions you want people to make edits to. So an example of that would be like award achievements for anyone that's touching markdown files, .md files, just doing documentation, doing test files, adding tests to your project, fixing grammar errors. Those are all things that we can start to pull out into the custom achievement triggers and make sure that we're even rewarding non-code contributors to the through the achievement system as well.
That's great. So when I so let's move on a bit on Hacktoberfest. So
Yes.
how Vont is taking part in Hacktoberfest this year?
Yeah, so we are taking advantage of Hacktoberfest by hosting, obviously our own repositories. You can check us out, and let me switch to my tab. You can check us out on GitHub at Vont Dev. We have a number of open source repositories that are enabled with Hacktoberfest. One of our latest repositories that we're going to be pushing out some more blog material around is a SQL templating library called TQLA or Tequila. And you can see here, there's a number of achievements that are set up around how you can engage, starting the repository, solving issues labeled bug, or issuing a pull request or reviewing a pull request. And those, end up in some cute little achievements that we've developed that can show up on the repository owners, the contributor's profile page or README page, and be celebrated as contributions throughout the event. So this is one way. Another way to participate with Vaunt is obviously install Vaunt on your repositories, set up these achievements, and really start to enable those custom achievements on your repository directly. And then lastly, towards the end of Hacktober, we will be hosting our own event, which we're going to be looking across the GitHub universe, looking for all of the repositories that are labeled Hacktoberfest, and awarding developers for some pretty cool achievements that they've accomplished during the event. That's irrespective of if they've used Vaunt in the past or not. We'll just be doing that in notifying users who have been awarded those achievements.
Great. That's great. So when you talk about tequila, is there any
Yeah,
specifics issue that a good first issue that a beginners can get started with?
absolutely. Yeah. So we have a couple issues here. For the most part, we're in pretty early enhancement mode. But one of the best ways to help this project grow is by adding to our examples themselves. So we have a number of little driver examples here where you can implement, a little test file. I can show what that looks like in the main repository, where we just have some samples on, in this case, we have a SQLite connection, and we have a number of samples in code that show how Tequila can be leveraged to write more dynamic queries. And those issues are open and available for users to take advantage of. And we're continually adding to those lists to make sure it's clear on what can be beneficial.
That's great. So I guess the folks can get started with looking at the current example and then starting with the first journey. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
awesome. Yeah, and
So that's amazing. The work that Vaunt is doing. I believe that many of the open source organizations that are more focused or developer centric would be more than delighted to use the Vaunt for their for celebrating their the contributors. So
awesome.
Eden, do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys, and love the partnership that we're doing through Hacktoberfest. Really appreciate what you guys are putting on, and excited to see the use cases that you guys have. From a closing remark standpoint, I think you hit it. Organizations can really benefit from leveraging Vaunt. That's our thesis behind this. We're a really developer first platform, which we're really trying to engage and showcase specifically the developers. And we believe that if you're invested in your developer community, obviously there's a trickle effect to your organization that shows long-term value. So invest in your developer communities. Hopefully you invest in your developer communities with Vaunt. And like I said, really appreciate the time today and getting to talk about Vaunt.
That's great. Thanks, for Ethan, for being here and coming up. So, as Ethan mentioned, and me too, in the starting, that this year, Hacktoberfest, Keploy and Vont are partnering together for uh, for empowering our developers and just supporting with the Hacktoberfest with the digital badges and the contributions. So we have something as well. Let me share my screen. So this year we have some cute little bunnies as the badges that we are awarding to the contributors. So we have Bugs Bunny, if the dogs maker that helps, since we are in a recent launch with the V2. So the product is currently syncing up with every iteration, it's evolving. So the documentation needs to be improved while with it, and that no commit is a small commit. So we have a small badges for them who makes even up one PR, and that gets successfully merged, so that you are adding a value. Then we have a pull request hero that you get when you closes at least four. That is specific to the Hacktoberfest, since you need four successful PR merged. So you get a cute space bunny, and then a closure. That is if you get that who closes an issue and the PR as well. So other than that, we have some good first issues. The base one that we have is that you could create some multiple sample apps using the technologies and the frameworks, and then use Keploy to test it of how of it's working. So we have some popular frameworks like Java, Golang, Python, JavaScript, and some databases that that we are adding on currently. So right now we have DynamoDB, S3 storage, Azure Blob, and you could maybe create some REST APIs, SOAP APIs, GraphQLs, or try gRPC for the streaming. And if you successfully build this, you can just submit or add your links here in that comment below. So this is an open issue for throughout the Hacktoberfest, and we may be continuing this even after the Hacktoberfest, cause the use cases that you create or the creativity that you as a developer bring can't be ever limited. So that's all for today with me and Ethan. Thank you all for joining in, and thank you, Ethan, for giving us a time. We are hoping to see some best time that we have this Hacktoberfest with the new folks.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.